I partnered with Lumix recently to test out their S52X, and I figured what better way to do that than to straight up go shoot. I planned 3 creative concept shoots in 3 different locations to demonstrate the different capabilities of the camera. We're going to be looking at using OpenGate in tight spaces, testing the stabilization and playing with different frame rates, coloring with ProRes footage in low light, and then just some overall thoughts about using the camera. If you haven't seen my first video covering the initial specs of the camera and my first impressions, that video is linked in the cards. Our first shoot was outside this corner store.
We're going to be shooting some fun test footage. There is no sequence, there is a very rough plan, only to get some cool shots and test some of my favorite features with this camera. So I've got a lovely team here with me. We got Justin behind the camera. We got Nicole, who also has her own YouTube channel. She's a fantastic cinematographer. Shout out Nicole. And Sam, who is in the bathroom, who is going to be our model today.
The overall vibe was to rock it handheld, keep it edgy and realistic, which is why it is all shot in 25 frames per second, and shot at night to test the low-light capabilities while shooting in ProRes. Now, since we're shooting in ProRes, the files are larger, so we had to record to an SSD. Now, just being able to have that option is great if shooting in ProRes is something that you do often. Also know that it was -6 during this shoot, we were freezing, and know that the struggle was very real.
You don't want to go back inside for a bit?
No, I thought,
Okay.
and then I wasn't sure when you would need me, so I came back out.
Okay, we'll try it again.
I would have preferred to shoot this follow shot with an easy rig or at least some kind of shoulder rig, but we're here to see how far we can stretch this camera, right? So we did this handheld with the E-stabilization turned on. Here is what that looks like. And here it is further stabilized in post. I had Sam, our model, walk quite slowly so that I could try to be as stable as possible, and the stabilization did a pretty good job. The shots where I was walking and following Sam had the odd jittery moment here and there, but once I was firmly planted and just rotating around Sam, I think it did really well. So the S52X's native ISOs are 640 and 4000 when shooting in Vlog. When we took the raw footage back, the ISO 4000 footage appeared a bit grainy in the blacks, but that cleared up completely when the Lumix LUTs were applied. I love that Lumix offers a Vlog LUT library for their cameras on their website, which is free to download, by the way. There are 35 LUTs to choose from for the S52X. I've heard great things about the Lumix colors, so I was really looking forward to this part. The colors look super nice. The bokeh between the 24-70 f2.8 and the 50mm f1.4 was beautiful at night. Welcome to day 2, and our next scene shot in this tiny bathroom. Now think late night house party and hitting the bathroom to get away from the crowd for a minute just to decompress. We had so much fun experimenting with the lighting in here and going for a very Euphoria look, if you've seen that show. I should also mention that my prep for these shoots was mainly by building mood boards in Milanote and pulling inspiration photos from Pinterest. A few of the photos gave me some really unique shot ideas, so the name of the game with these shots was experimentation, after all. We knew that shooting in the bathroom would be tight, so the decision to shoot in OpenGate was perfect here. Friendly reminder, if you didn't see my last video, is that OpenGate lets the Lumix use all of its pixels in the full frame sensor, therefore letting you record it to its maximum capability. The sensor is 3x2, so naturally the footage you'll be shooting is then going to be that ratio. This way, we'd have more space to play with when cropping later. Regardless, if you wanted to crop your shot into additional ratios like 9x16, for example, this makes a ton of sense. There are even settings in the menu to turn on customizable frame markers when shooting in order to help with this. Shooting in OpenGate makes a ton of sense to me. Having that extra room to reframe is always helpful. However, if shooting in ProRes is important to you, that feature no longer exists when shooting OpenGate, so just keep that in mind. I really enjoyed shooting with the 50mm f1.4 for this scene. I loved the shallow depth it gave, and a few times I actually switched to manual focus to have more control over shifting focus to different areas of the frame. But the camera expands into your frame when you're doing that, and the focus assist allows you to see that your shot is sharp. Overall, I didn't mind shooting manual focus at all for this. Our final scene was shot in a loft with these big, bright windows. We brought out the DJI RS3 Pro for this to film our lovely volunteers, Matt and Priscilla. They were slow dancing and being all cute and coupley. The idea for this shoot was to highlight the different frame rates and test out the stabilization with and without a gimbal. Now, most of the shots were push-ins, pull-outs, and pans. Then at the end, we did a little handheld fun too. Most of this shoot was done with OpenGate and on a gimbal. Now, our thought process was if for some reason the shot needed further stabilization or wasn't framed ideally, then we'd have extra room for reframing or stabilization in post. Now, when shooting at 50 frames per second in a high resolution like 3.3K, the picture is cropped at 1.5 times. This crop is something you'll want to keep in mind if you're looking for slow motion with a then higher resolution. There is an even slower option at 100 frames per second, which we did test out as well, however, only at 1080p but without a crop. It's pretty impressive just how many recording options this camera has. There are literally 6 pages of different qualities you can shoot in. Here's one shot with the gimbal and E-stabilization. It's smooth, like butter, and even just handheld on the E-stabilization on the body is manageable, especially if you're adding stabilization in post. And here are all of those shots side by side. There is one additional level of stabilization you can add with the Lumix S5 IIX called Boost that we tested out. Now, Boost internal stabilization is independent of E-stabilization and is not recommended for any camera movement at all. There is a time and place for this mode in the right circumstances. For example, like a static handheld shot to achieve that steady tripod look, which would then eliminate those micro jitters that would otherwise be visible. I had a blast shooting with this camera and getting to experiment with these different sets, so drop anything else you'd like to see shot with this camera or any questions you have about each of these shoots in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you learned something new about the Lumix S5 IIX, and if there's anything else you want to see me shoot with this camera, please let me know in the comments below. I will be there replying to all of you. There is one more video we have yet to make about this camera, and I'm very excited about it. So if you like this video, please give it a like. It really helps support this channel, which is, you know, my livelihood and all. Otherwise, subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell to get notified for all future videos. I will see you guys in the next one when I am more rested. Adios. Thank you.